Okay, everybody, welcome again to our second episode of the ADV Cannonball Rally podcast roundtable edition, which is literally supposed to be just the participants. This time around, I decided to kick Aaron out of the conversation. As Rally Master, he had no business being part of this one because this one is really about Wingnuts, Hooligans, and what it takes to win. We've had lots of questions from folks about what that looked like. So when I started thinking about what that podcast would end up being like, there were only two people that I actually wanted to have on this one because it would turn into pure chaos. And oh, by the way, we have Captain Chaos with us today, who is Chris Peloso. And we've got Hunter Ray, our ADV vet and winner. So I would like to introduce our two guests for today's roundtable. I've got Hunter Ray and Chris Peloso. Gents, would you like to do some introductions? Chris, why don't we start with you?
I'm Christopher Peloso. I'm from Paris, New York, kind of about an hour and a half north of the city, and I like to ride bikes, obviously.
Hunter?
Oh, my name's Hunter Ray. I live in Virginia Beach. Yeah, I like to chase Chris on bikes. So that's me.
What I really wanted to focus on was what that takes to win. So in the last podcast, one of the things that I talked about was that by the end of day 2, I'd given up on saying, yeah, I'm going to win this thing, and focused more on the points, and I focused on my ride. You guys did not. So
We were a little more focused on each other.
So one of the this is, oh my God, this podcast is going to get out of control. So
It was a budding romance in the making, Carrie.
It really was. It really was. When I think about what was going on with you two, we had Captain Chaos. Honestly, dude, I didn't even know your real name until like day 4 or 5 because
Same.
you were the sleeper. It's like Chris was hanging out. He parked his bike on the other side of the parking lot. He was super focused and intent on what he was doing. He had all his sneaky shit that he had going on. You'd show up and it's like, how the hell did he even get ahead of me? I had no idea what the hell you were doing. It was just sheer chaos. Your name fit perfectly. Then we had Hunter. Hunter was like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, right? There is yeah.
How's that possible?
There is the Hunter that is not competitive, and then there is a Hunter that is competitive. Two distinctly different dudes, right?
So, I would absolutely agree with that.
Right.
The Hunter that's not competitive, to be clear, though, is not the guy on the motorcycle. That is anytime I'm away from the motorcycle.
So what I wanted to focus in on starting with is what you guys were both thinking was going to happen before you even showed up in Kitty Hawk, right? Let's start there. What did it look like for you guys? What had you envisioned? Chris, I know you had a strategy from the get-go. You had been doing things to get ready for this. Why don't you guys talk about what your mindset was, what your strategy was, and what you were thinking about before it even started?
Well,
who wants to go first?
Go ahead, Chris.
I started thinking and planning months before. Wound up setting up a bike I had completely ready for the Cannonball, my Aprilia Touareg. And then just after my map studying, I just had a nagging feeling that I was on the wrong bike. And I wound up searching for a GSA after looking at the lineup of entirely GSAs and figure I'd better find one quick and get it ready.
Well, the old man Starbucks mobile did a great job for you.
Yeah, I love that bike. I did a lot of little stuff to it, all sorts of electronics, comfort stuff, lots of maintenance, radar. I had a Carpuride screen for GPS, and I think that was one of my biggest bottlenecks was running Gaia and a Carpuride.
Yeah.
I'm hoping to be able to afford a DMD this year, but I'm setting up another bike as well. I'm not sure what I want to ride yet.
Yeah, we're going to do a whole nother episode on navigation. That's actually going to be the next one after that. And I'm going to do a deep dive into all the various options for people. But we'll talk about navigation in a bit. Hunter, how about you? What were you thinking about from a prep perspective?
So jumping back, Chris, I didn't realize that you had just bought that GS for the Cannonball. You bought it for specifically.
I had maybe 600 to 800 miles on it before showing up at the Cannonball with it.
Wow. No way.
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you this: you ride the thing like the wind. So apparently, it's a good bike for you.
I want to take a page out of your book this year, and lighter is better. I just had so much stuff I did not need.
Yeah, I think that was kind of, you're talking about prep carry, and I did the pre-ride, rode out and back on most of the route, and my intention was to go camping, fishing, you name it, just enjoy the ride and do some route scouting on the way out. And what I had learned in that trip was I had way too much stuff, times 10. So I think that was the big shocker when I showed up to the starting line and I had 2 tank bags and a 30-liter bag. I think everybody was like, "What is this guy doing? What does he know that we
I
don't?"
had a second helmet.
Yeah, yeah, he did. That JT Racing 3/4 is pretty awesome, though.
There were multiple guys that actually shipped stuff home. Sean took his entire top case and stuffed it full of stuff and sent it home too. So, I mean, yeah. I mean, as far as packing goes, it is definitely right. It's one of the reasons I actually switched to my T7 for this year is, as much as I was dumping my bike, I wanted to have something a little bit lighter to pick up. But yeah, I'm running just a 30-liter bag this year.
Yeah,
So
I think
that's my approach.
Yeah, and preparation. I mean, I can't really say I didn't prep for the Cannonball. 7,700 miles cross country and back, so that's pretty good prep. But the bike itself, I ride a F900 GS Adventure 2024. I had 3,000 miles on the bike before we started the Cannonball, or before I did the pre-ride. And it's bone stock. It is literally bone stock. I have not done anything to the bike at all, except for I have some really nice sheet metal screws now, thanks to the race.
All right, so let's talk about after day one. So we get through day one, adrenaline is high, everybody's excited to go. I know for a fact that when we were coming off over the water on that bridge, I was pushing 120 over that bridge
The Wright
with,
Memorial Bridge coming out of the Outer Banks.
yeah, and I had my roommate and riding buddy right with me. He who shall not be named, because then I'm not going to get anybody else in trouble. But so we get flying over that bridge, and there's a county mountie on the other side of the bridge. But because of the pace that we were clipping at, he couldn't catch us. So he actually pulled over another guy that was behind us and said, "Hey,
No way.
you were speeding too. I've got you. I couldn't catch them. So I'm giving you a ticket on their behalf. So when you see them later, let them know that this ticket is for all three of you," which I thought was pretty damn funny.
Now, let's go back. Your number in the race was, Carrie?
I was number 30. I was number 30.
And Chris? Right. So I don't think we even saw the police by the time we left.
They had lots of paying customers by the time you two hit the road. Lots of paying customers. Yeah, so that first day was a little rough. The local Leos were having a field day. I think now that it's not the first year of the event and people understand what it is, I have a feeling that the event will be watched a little bit closer than it was last year. And with our route being published publicly, people are going to know exactly where to watch for us as well. So
yeah, and that being said, you're talking about day one, right? And kind of when did it click? When did it set in? And from jump, no matter how many billions of times Aaron said this is not a race, when the green flag drops, there's certain people that just can't help themselves, and I'm one of them. Absolutely. Right. So that Jekyll and Hyde that you were talking about, I'm like, okay, so I'm the nicest guy you could possibly be. Something happens when the green flag drops, I just start going. And when I recognized that we were in a competitive rally, spirited rally, as it so would be said, was at the first major construction zone. Because I pulled up.
That's where we met up.
Yeah.
Yep. Exactly. I pulled up and there's 20 bikes in line and 40 cars. And I was like, absolutely not. Left lane all the way to the front. And I start chatting with the flagman. And I was like, hey, man, we're in a cross-country rally. We just started. We're going all the way to L.A. Would you care if I take off and just haul ass as soon as you drop the flag? He was like, get it, son, from North Carolina. I was like, oh, my God. And then you guys fell in behind me. And that's when I was like, okay, there's some people that don't realize that this is what it takes. It's not about breaking the law. It's not about, breakneck speeds. It's not about, running red lights or anything like that. But if you don't take advantage of the feet, then you'll never get ahead in the miles, right? And it's so every race that I've ever won has been won in the corners. And I'm sure you both could say the same. It's not the straightaways that win it. It's that collective thinking of, if this corner and that corner and this corner, I can cut off 30 seconds to 60 seconds over an 8 or 10-hour day. Now you're making up time. So that was the moment that I think the competitive group and the non-competitive groups decided that how they were going to ride the race.
Chris, how long did it take you to figure out who you were actually competing against?
That same exact moment, as soon as Hunter came up from behind and rolled past me at that construction zone, I knew he started from behind me and that I was trying to keep a high pace. And then that was only confirmed once we made it to the Blue Ridge Parkway, and we were riding together there and having a blast.
Yeah, that was fun. When we first linked up, it was like, all right, here we go.
You guys were hilarious. Like the competition between you two, like the rest of us got to the point where we were just watching it to see what each of you guys were going to choose, right? So there was different routes, different approaches, but I think it's important, Hunter, you started to touch on it a little bit. I think it is important for people to understand who they're going to be going against if they want that first. It's not just going to be about how good a rider you are. It's going to be about what you're willing to do to get those points and get that first to finish.
So this year with the new rules in place, it is 100% a very different game. And that's the loopholes that were exploited or discovered, or however you want to say it, last year created just this anarchy, this middle of the night madness that Chris and I both partook in a ton. But the first to finish to each day without having the opportunity to do anything else, this year is going to be a lot about strategy. What are you willing to sacrifice? How many times have you run the numbers? What's your preferred method? If you collect X number of checkpoints throughout the day, can you outrun someone point wise? It doesn't matter the motorcycle, it doesn't matter the route, it doesn't matter the navigation. What adds up in California at the end of the day are the points. And I think, Chris, we were like 7 points apart or something really
Something
silly.
like that,
yeah. So we weren't even a full checkpoint apart from each other because the strategy played in. And that's where this year it's going to be a madhouse. You can leave the line as hard as you want to leave it and run as fast as you want to run. But if you don't have a solid strategy going in, it's going to be anybody's game.
I want to go a little deeper on that for a second. Hunter, what I think you're specifically talking about is that last year, what would happen is people could race all the way to the finish line, select the first to finish, and then spend hours doubling back the entire length of the day as far as they wanted to collect those checkpoints. And in some instances, that saved people's butts. So I can think of one in particular, Sean Ross. He went by the checkpoint but didn't actually verify that the rally app picked up the checkpoint and missed it. So he ended up spending, I think it was at least 2 hours
that
night in the dark, riding all the way back so that he would not lose those points. So here are the guys all hanging out in the hotel enjoying beers and shit talking, and that poor guy was on his bike the majority of the night before he had to crash.
But it was that conversation. It was that conversation with Sean, and I was like, what are you doing? And I laid in bed, and I was like, by the time I made the commitment, because I had missed checkpoints as well, and I'm like, by the time I made the commitment to myself, it was probably 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning. And I'm like, if I leave now, I'm just going to be smoked. But it was that conversation with Sean and that act of him taking off and going back. Once it was questioned, it was determined, and it was decided that this was okay. And I was like, that's it. The next morning I woke up early. I went and collected mine. The only rule last year was you had to pass through the starting point after your starting time. So I then rode the same 4 hours that Sean rode the night before out and back, through the starting line hours after everybody had already left. And then carried on with the day.
And to be clear for everybody, the difference this year is that, Aaron has had his lesson learned. He didn't think anybody would be that flippin' stupid to go back in the middle of the night to do that. And I said, dude, you called it a Cannonball rally.
It's a Cannonball, baby.
Who do you think is going to sign up for this thing? Chris is a nut job. Hunter's a nut job. I sure as hell know I'm self-aware enough to know I'm a nut job. I would go back and ride until 4 a.m. if I needed to make sure that I had all those checkpoints. So this year it's changed so that if you go to that hotel, you absolutely cannot go back and get the checkpoints you missed, which
Once you check in, you're done.
you check in, you're done, which I
Yep.
actually think is a great rule change because it forces people to be much more accurate in what they're doing. They don't have that safety net anymore. It takes
Well,
a little bit of the strategy out of it, like, "Hey, I'm gonna go get, like, the first 3 or 4 checkpoints, and then I'm gonna race to get the first to finish and then double back to get the other ones," which became a common tactic. Chris, you pulled that one several times.
I did it on the worst day as well. It was a 670-mile day
Yeah.
heading to New Mexico. I made
Yeah.
it to the hotel. I changed my brake pads because I was metal on metal, and I went out to go do that whole northern backtracking loop and the extreme checkpoints above it so I could head out first thing straight to the end in the morning and backtrack. Because that's when we knew that the one gentleman was making a beeline for the hotel. But I knew if I did the same
Yeah.
thing, I could beat him.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk about that. So one of the topics that I wanted to talk about was real-time decision making because this is a real thing, and the tracker app helps with that. It was awesome to be able to see where everybody was at, what approaches that they were taking. And in the last podcast, one of the things that Aaron talked about was the fact that he actually pulled the van over. The blue whale got pulled over to the side of the road because he was afraid he was going to get in a wreck because he was watching the tracker so much. Hunter, do you want to talk about that day? You guys want to talk about
Yeah.
what happened there?
There's a whole army of tracker junkies out there. Like in this last race, really, my wife, Chris's wife, everybody. I mean, it was definitely a thing to watch that app. And real time decisions make you, like, watching that app, you're making real time decisions all day long. So have a plan, have 3 or 4 plans going into the race, but know that at least one of those days, you are not going to follow one letter of your plan, because if you're riding to win, something's gonna change everything that you thought was gonna happen.
But like on the first day, once we were riding together, you made that last fuel stop and I kept going, but I had to stop for fuel. I stopped, like I just pulled into the gas station and you come cruising by. In my head, I was defeated. I was like, I have to fill up this giant tank. Like he's already like ahead of me by like 3 minutes. I was upset. And then I was like, you know what? Let me stick to the plan. I was only using the Gaia GPX and I had marked some potential shortcuts. And at the end of the day, it being later in the day and school coming out, I thought, let me get this last stretch of highway. It was probably 10, 15 miles of highway that paralleled the route. And I get to the hotel and I'm looking for Hunter everywhere and he wasn't there. And that was only because I decided to stick with my plan even after I felt defeated because I had to stop for gas and he was already so like.
Yeah, that's it. That's exactly it. So everybody, and that was my discovery on day one, was when I arrived and you had beaten me and many people. So I flew by a bunch of guys. And when I arrived at the hotel, they were all there. And I was like, what happened? How did this work? And I was under the mindset, because I had done the pre-ride, which helped me see the route, but it also gave me this false sense of security that I had a plan going into the ride. And everyone else had already discovered this. If you run straight lines between checkpoints away from the route, away from the intended route, then it was much quicker to get where you were going when you needed to be there. So that day, we both learned something. Yep. That day, we both learned something. I was like, oh, there he goes. I got him. And then I pulled in and you were in front of me. And then you pull in for gas, I pull in for gas. It was just this hopscotch. But you're making real time decisions at that point to be like, what am I doing wrong, or what are they doing faster? Or who's outthinking me at this point? And it was very interesting.
Yeah, because when you were doing the pre-ride, you were following the tracks, and the tracks,
and I had no checkpoints.
Right. So the tracks were great for the guys that are out to enjoy the ride, right? Like Dave, our boy Dave, hanging out, having
lunch, Dave.
Yeah, having fucking tacos, hanging out. I'm like, it's a good thing you were on a Harley, man, because
Oh my
this
God.
is like It was the full meal deal. I love that guy. All right. Anyway,
Yeah,
but
he's awesome.
yeah, but the difference there is that the tracks are not necessarily the most efficient route between the actual checkpoints, right? Which is what we're talking
weren't
about
last
here.
year.
No,
We don't know about
no,
this year, right?
no. But Aaron has made some very strategic changes as well to where he's put those checkpoints. He's a sneaky bastard, and I was looking at him. So there's a lot of
He's a
different
sadist.
options. Yeah, he's a total sadist. Every time
But
I say that to him, he just smiles
his
about
lowly
it.
followers, right?
Yeah,
We're the ones that sign up for this again and again.
Yeah, well, that means So it's going to be a real interesting thing to do because you're going to have some people that want those first to finish points, and you're going to have to do the math in your head as to whether those first to finish points are worth it to you on that specific day to make that race. But I swear, like the best thing to watch as I was being a tracker junkie, having the tracker open on my phone, was Hunter, you taking the northern route along where the regular checkpoints were, and then realizing that somebody else was just interstating it the entire way to get to the hotel to beat you for the first of the finish, just basically to collect that. That's when Aaron actually pulled the van over and was looking at it that way. But that was intense. Like, how was that for you in the moment? Had you felt like you were gonna actually catch him and make it, or no?
Once I realized what was going on, it was not consciously, I wasn't paying attention to the road. I was more focused on the map. So the same as everybody else watching the tracker. And I'm looking at the checkpoints ahead of me, and I'm adding up in my head how much I've got, how much I need. But this one individual was on a 100-mile-an-hour beeline for the hotel. I looked ahead, found a cut out of the mountains down to the highway, and I was like, you know what? I don't really care about the rest of the checkpoints for this day. For this day, I want to win first to finish. And we all know why, and there's no need to bring it up. But there was definitely an agenda there.
So. It was funny. I was watching the map, and I kept pinch zooming in, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, all right, he has one opportunity. If he's going to catch him, he's going to head south on this road. And then watching the two of you converge on the intersection of where your southbound road and his section of the interstate was, I didn't even have my own maps open anymore. I was watching the tracker because I'm like, is he going to catch it? I'm like, is he going to catch him?
Let's go ahead and reveal some secrets here. So that Chris, you might not know this one. You ready? This is going to be, I'm going to drop a bomb on both of you. So the day that I put the sheet metal screws in my bike, and again, I don't know if this is fair play or not, and who knows if it is, but you can turn your tracker off, and it leaves you in your last position. You guys know that?
Oh, yes. I kind of do remember that. Yeah.
So the day that I had crashed and was putting sheet metal screws in my bike at Home Depot, I turned my tracker off at Home Depot, and I watched you come across the off-road section, and I was a mile behind you and just waiting to turn my tracker back on, because I was like, I am not going to show him where I am right now. But that's when we met up. And
it would have been my own fault because I wasn't even watching the tracker like that. I was more so focused on my GPX line because the screen's small and I hate trying to follow it, especially with my shortcuts where I don't have the route going. But
yeah, there was so much trickery in play. Like, it was just, and I think everything was embracing the spirit of the Cannonball. Everything was like, we weren't causing any harm. We weren't tearing up property or doing anything wrong, but just playing tricks with each other all day long was just so fun. You know? That was the part.
Now, I got to warn everybody, if you turn your tracker off, you have to be aware that you're not going to get your checkpoints if you don't turn it back on.
Don't pass the checkpoint with it off. It does not register.
Don't pass the checkpoint with it off.
But it goes to what you're saying, right? Strategy playing into. So you've got to be aware. If you're riding to win, if you want to carry home one of these here, did you guys see this? No, I know we're not recording video, but there's this big, beautiful, black,
piss off, dude,
sexy. Do you see that right? What does that say right there on the? I think that says 2025 winner.
You know how I'm going to edit this is just with big, black, beautiful, and then we'll just leave it right there.
You know what? Listen, Aaron Pufal gave me a giant, black, beautiful shaft, and I love it. So if you're riding to get one of these, then you have got to be paying attention on the bike, in the hotel. So there's going to be a group group's bigger the next year or this year. There's a lot of guys, and I love them. Like I said, day one when I took off, I was riding the route, because when I pre-rode the route, it's the most amazing tracks I've ever followed that anybody's ever created. Like, the riding every single day was mind-blowing. My hat's off. As much grief as we give Mr. Pufal, he is one of the most extraordinary route creators I've ever seen in existence, period.
Stop kissing his
But
ass.
no, not at all, man. Like, my hat's off to the guy. Like, he is beloved across all the worlds for the idiot that he is, and we love him to death. But that he builds a great route, and there's guys that are going to ride that route and enjoy the absolute hell out of it. But if you want to come home with the hardware, you got to be in the game, and you got to be willing to play.
And
the
I'm
game.
going to make a point of this in pretty much every episode. Ride your own ride. Everybody needs to ride their own ride, right? Don't ride outside of your ability. Don't worry about what everybody else is doing. Don't let what everybody else is doing ruin your own ride. It's just do your thing and enjoy it for what it is, because you're going to get some wingnuts like you two clowns that some people are just not going to be willing to do what you guys were willing to do, right?
Let's talk about Slab Day.
Good Lord. Okay, go for it.
That was my worst day.
Hold on. Are you ready? Hold on. Listen, we were supposed to do this at the beginning, but
what are you
since
drinking? What are you drinking, Karen?
okay. So, as you know, I own a barber shop with a full bar, and some Gen Zer kid came in and said, "Hey, Carrie, these seltzers are selling like hotcakes at the bars I've been going to. You really should try and put these in your bar. They're going for $12 a can. I looked it up. They're like $18 for a case. Right.
Oh,
so I picked some up. It's called Truly Unruly Seltzers. 8% alcohol by volume.
Official drink of Cannonball? Truly Unruly?
It is the most disgusting garbage.
No.
Aaron would be proud. I think I would actually prefer to drink an IPA over this seltzer. It is nasty sweet, but I bought a case. Cheers, gents.
Cheers up.
What do you got there, Hunter?
Good segue to Mr. Pufal and his IPAs. Today I'll be enjoying a locally brewed 3-Notch Brewing Minuteman IPA with a badass eagle on the front. So cheers to everybody.
Yeah, you just gave Aaron wood. Chris, what are you drinking there, buddy?
Just a ginger ale.
Is that a mason jar I'm seeing?
I think it is. Go ahead and keep calling that. You know what? I bet your ginger ale will run a V8 small block.
I think he's lying. That mason jar is full of go juice.
Yeah, that's it. Tennessee honey.
All right. Yeah. So we've talked about a bunch of stuff. What were you guys not willing to do to win? Where did you guys draw the line?
Chris, what do you think? I think we have the same answer. Being that we both damn near died on the side of a hill in the Arizona sun.
Even before that, the petrified forest where you got escorted out and I got asked to leave, and they wouldn't even accept my bribe to take my phone to the checkpoint.
You asked them to take your phone?
Yeah.
Dude, I love you. That is so perfect. That is awesome.
I offered him $200.
Did you really? And he said no.
No.
Was this before or after? You were there before
After you, because he said we got your buddy at the entrance. And I was like, that's why I'm on foot. I'm on foot. I'm here in peace.
So
yes, I think the answer to your question, Carrie, is there was not anything on the other side of that line. I think Chris and I were both willing to do whatever it was going to take.
I probably shouldn't have pushed myself as hard as I did at Montezuma's castle. I wound up I was being underprepared. I got off the bike. I left it at the gate. I was a little delirious for doing that.
Mm-hmm.
But I saw the checkpoint was maybe 200-300 yards, like a straight line from the gate. I was like, oh, let me walk over there.
Across the
desert. It's now 89 degrees. I left my jacket on. I left my helmet on. I wound up getting to the edge of the cliff. I can't get the checkpoint. You have to go like another 20-30 yards, which would be at the base of the castle. So I go to the side and I climb down the side, not knowing what Montezuma's castle is. As soon as I see it, I know exactly what it is. And I was like, oh my God, I'm about to be in a lot of trouble.
Yep.
I was like, I should have at least walked on the road and not through the desert because they're already sensitive enough about the desert, let alone a
that was
national park
Chris,
like
is that the
that.
spot? Am I remembering right that that was the spot where you were almost ready to press the button on your
If
on your?
if I had the Garmin with me and didn't leave it on the bike, 100% would have SOS. I was
it was
uh
hot.
It
I
was
I
hot
was
and it was steep too. Wasn't that part of the problem?
Very.
Was how
and it
steep it
was
was?
to go around was like a mile walk, maybe longer than a
Yeah.
mile uphill. And I was even afraid to call my wife because I figured if I let her know the situation, that would make it more real. I've pushed myself to like tunnel vision and dehydration before, but this was like swerving tunnel vision. And once I made it to the bike, there was a couple there in a car at the parking lot. They gave me water, and just by the sight of me, the lady was trying to drive me into town for medical attention. I was like, no, I got the water now. I'm
Yeah.
gonna get some wind and hopefully survive.
And all of this was because of the government shutdown, right? So
Yep.
it was funny because then we had multiple spots that were on federal land
Mm-hmm.
on last year's rally. And Hunter, why don't you tell the story of your interaction with the
So
cop?
before this, and this is Chris and I haven't talked since the race, and this is so leading up to that day, and we go back. This ties it back to watching the tracker, right? So I was pretty far behind Chris because of the first checkpoint. He had gotten out far enough out in front of me, and then I just slowed down, given my pleasant conversation with the park rangers at that particular location. And so I'm watching the tracker, and I'm watching him, and his bike stops, his tracker stops, and I can tell he's at the gate. And then I saw his tracker move, and I was like, are you kidding me? As long as I was able to get every checkpoint from that point forward, given what I had just accomplished, I knew points-wise I had the race. That's the moment that I knew. And then Chris's tracker went across the gate. And I was like, you're going to make me do it again? Are you kidding me? I couldn't believe it.
That was my only chance. I was grasping at straws.
That was it. That was the only thing. If I hadn't gone in, then everything goes a different way, right? And I knew at that particular moment, if I don't go in, I'm giving up, and that's where it ends. And so I pulled up, and I see your bike sitting at the gate, and I'm like, nope, I'm not doing that. No way. And I'm watching your tracker. You're over the hill at this point, so I'm like 2-3 minutes behind you, maybe 10, whatever. But I rode down the road a quarter mile like Jesse James, and I pulled my bike off in the desert and shoved it behind some bushes, like laid it down on the ground so that because if
you laid it down,
I was
too?
just not going to. I laid it down, so I was not going to have another conversation with law enforcement on that particular day. So I was like, I'm going to sit here and see what happens. And I went in, and you were coming out. We saw each other. You were walking the road, and I was going down that ski slope. And I got down there, and on the way back out, I was like, there's no way. You had already taken off. I saw your tracker, see your dot leave, and I'm out there by myself and in the same situation you're in, dehydrated, exhausted, and I climbed back up that slope. I was taking 2 steps and lay down.
Yeah.
And I'd get up and take another 2 or 3 steps and lay down.
I'm glad it wasn't just
I could not believe. Yeah, man, I was done for. Absolutely done for.
We were at some elevation, too. I want to say it was like 8,000 feet.
Yeah. The elevation, the heat, the dryness in the desert, it was incredible. That was just an incredible moment, and that is the moment. If you really sum up the entire race, that's the moment. I was like, do I go in or do I not? And I knew if I didn't, I knew exactly what happened.
Well, you two ass clowns ruined it for the rest of us because by the time that we had gotten there, there were 3 local law enforcement cars sitting in front of those gates watching for everybody and just turning everybody around. They're like, yeah, we know that you guys are all coming through, so just turn around and get the hell out of here.
I don't know what you're talking about, Kerry.
One of the neighbors had actually called them, and so there was also, funny enough, part of that story is, and I don't even know if you guys know this, there was a dispute over who had authority on that land.
Really?
Local police were there, county police were there, and the feds were there, and they were all just fighting over who had jurisdiction over that space. So that was funny too.
Yeah, that was an interesting day.
Hunter, why don't you tell us a story about the railroad tracks?
I don't know if I'm going to put that on record. I can tell you a story about driving through some farm fields. So I had seen an opportunity. there was truly, and this is something that would be relevant to people listening to the podcast that are competing in this year, there was truly an advantage to being the last person leaving every day. And that kind of this whole conversation seems to be based around that tracker app. And that's what it was. I could see everybody's decisions until I ended up, out in front of them. Strategically, it would take each day. And Chris, unfortunately, I wish Chris was numbered like 8 or 9 or something. Would have made it a lot easier instead of the number right before me. But I could see what you guys were doing, right? If you took a left, if you took a shortcut, like I was watching the whole thing. I had a grandstand seat to it. So hearing the chatter, watching the app, watching what was happening on that, and I was like, there's got to be a way in. There's got to be a way in. And I went way too far past the checkpoint and turned in, and I was like, this has got to lead somewhere. And I ended up in big, wide open farm fields, like riding the roads between the fields that the tractors would use to service them.
It was like
before
a
I
highway.
turned off into this farm field. Yeah, there was a whole road that went around everywhere I was at. And I crashed my bike 5 times in that freaking farm field.
Really?
It was awful getting through there. And I ended up on, I went down once. So I'd got up some pretty good speed. I went down once at about 65 miles an hour in the dirt. And everything, the whole bike exploded. I mean, there was bags and GPSs and phones everywhere. And I was like, oh my God.
Oh, you had a full-on yard sale.
A yard sale like you wouldn't believe, and there was nobody there to witness it. It was pretty sad. So that led me to the railroad tracks, and the railroad tracks led me to the checkpoint, and that was the moment, that it was like, okay, this is getting serious. I had a very serious conversation with an incredibly nice man, and was able to keep riding my motorcycle for the day.
That's a very generic summarization of a very good story.
Thanks. If you want to hear the rest of that story in detail, I'll see you at the hotel. We can have
Yeah. So, Chris, where did you go? Yeah, I shouldn't have done that. Did you have any of those moments?
Montezuma. I was ecstatic that I made it, but it was dangerous.
Yeah. You guys had
I'll tell you what, there's another moment, though, that I saw Chris, and I was like, I'm so glad he did that. We were coming around the backside of, right before it was in California, that long-ass highway right before we turned left and started going up into the dam. And Chris rips the biggest wheelie I've ever seen in my life. He turns, and it was like the bike was up. And it's probably a 30-degree slope that went straight into the mountains for miles. And this dude rips this wheelie that's got to be like 2.5, 3 miles long. And I was like, yeah, go, dude.
I've always wanted to wheelie into the sunset.
That was it, man. I was wishing I had a camera on you so bad. I was like, that's the ticket. That's the Cannonball spirit, because that's probably day 6 or 7. I don't know. We were pretty far into it, exhausted, had damn near died on Montezuma's Castle and everything else. And here we are, as fast as our bikes will go down this desert highway, there's only one turn in 20, 30 miles. And Chris is like, yep. Opportunity knocks. Just took off. I was like, yes,
That's
dude.
Funny.
I usually enjoy wheelies a bit more. I haven't ridden that bike much, and it was very loaded down.
Yeah, they're hard to.
I am literally doing a 30-liter dry bag strapped down with rock straps on the back of my bike for this next one. I had Moscow soft panniers on my Tiger last year. And at the speeds that I was traveling, it was giving me death wobble hardcore because the aerodynamics were totally off. So I'm just like, nope, I am not doing that again this year, because 98% of what I brought, I didn't need.
No.
I didn't need. So for me this year, all I'm packing is stuff to fix tires. That's it.
I'm riding the same bike, but it's not going to be the same bike.
Let's talk about your bike, Mr. Ray. I would like to discuss your patch job with sheet metal screws.
Yes.
What caused that, and how did that end up being your fix?
So, well-known fact or little-known fact, I'm not sure, but is a true statement that I crashed my motorcycle every day of the Cannonball. I crashed every single day. The first day on the Blue Ridge Parkway, I think it was that checkpoint before the bridge, and you got the 2 feet curbs, and I had not really figured out where this thing was going to register or not. So I'm staring at the park sign, which is on the other side of this sidewalk. I drove straight into a 2-foot granite curb and laid the bike over on its side. That was day 1. Like, just crashed. And so I had started convincing myself that I was riding to my absolute limit when I was crashing every single day. So yeah, that crash came from or the sheet metal screws came from part of the railroad track story.
What day was that? Was that day
They all could
6? I
blend
want to say
together. I don't know.
it was either day 4 or day 6. It wasn't on the big slab day.
So I had my left boot jammed in between my crash bars and my fairing just to keep the plastic together.
Wow.
And I was losing Chris by the mile. It was in Arizona. Because he was on the top of the rim coming in the off-road section across. And I had gone in and out and down and around. And I was like, I've got to stop and figure this out. So I'm at Home Depot, right? And I was like, quick, think, like, figure this out. Self-tapping sheet metal screws, that ought to do it. So I bought a box and I bought a drill. And I went, and this guy in the parking lot was a veteran. He had veteran plates on his truck. I was like, hey, man, you need a drill? He was like, what? I said, I only needed it for this. I'm all set. So I gave him the drill, and the dude wanted to start talking to me. God bless him, and I love him to death. He wanted to start sharing stories and telling war stories and talk about veteran stuff. And I was like, man, I'm in a race. I got to go.
Chris, you didn't really have any damage to your bike, did you? I don't remember seeing any big damage.
I went down once good. It was Arizona day going into California, I believe. I had gone down on an off-road section in fourth gear. And I think I lost a mirror, like the bark buster, and I like just knocked the fog light out of whack and stuff and broke the my yellow lens covers. But that was about it. One of my side bags is a little tweaked. For going down at fourth gear in the dirt, I could not complain.
No.
Yeah, we all got pretty
Unlike
lucky.
poor Iron Man Mark, who
That dude's an animal. Are you kidding me?
He breaks his leg and then he still finishes riding the entire thing on his own bike. I pushed him out of the hotel one day on one of those luggage trolleys at the hotel, like every day.
Right.
You know, that's one of the beautiful things that I really loved is everybody rallied to help everybody out. Yeah, it's competitive when the gun goes off, but in between, everybody's hanging back, drinking cold, cheap shit beer, swapping stories from the day, and everybody was taking care of each other, right? So every single day, Mark had help, and I thought that was really, really
It's
cool.
awesome. Yeah, it's definitely a bonding.
And I would say you guys are going to have to watch out for Mark this year, because I think he's had enough lessons learned. That crazy mofo is going to be all over it again.
He's been out riding nonstop. Like, you follow his socials.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's training and riding every day.
And he's posting on the Facebook group. So he's actually showing some of the sections he's doing on his Transalp right now. And he's even trying to decide which bike he's going to use, whether he's going to use his brand new GSA 1300 or whether he's going to use his Transalp.
The old F900's coming in strong this year, fellas.
Dude, that is like the perfect size bike. You've got
it will be
power and you've got the fuel capacity.
Let's just say that the F900, I'll be riding the same bike I rode last year, but the VIN number's the same. That's about it.
Until you file it off.
Nope, it'll stay on there. That's about it. I'm coming for you fellas this year. And I came up short. So slab day, I thought for sure, even through some minor wins and successes and some backtracking and craziness, I was like, I'm going to lose it on slab day. When I passed Sean on slab day, I lost my mind. I was like, how is this little tiny F900 out in front of everybody else? I was losing my mind. But I know that this year there's people bringing it, and they are going to bring it hard. And there's some really, really fast bikes and really fast riders coming. So I had to make some changes.
I'm going to talk shit about Sean for a second. I think the reason that you were able to pass Sean is because he didn't want to spill his latte.
Mr. Number 6 is coming for you, buddy.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Sean's a badass, man.
He definitely can
ride.
He can definitely ride. But,
Yeah, I was running with Sean and Jake up that mountain in California, and we were screaming demons. It was getting with it. Those boys can definitely ride.
Yeah. All right, so I'm going to give you one more big question, and you guys, whoever wants to, can talk first, which is like, you look back at last year, what's your favorite memory, period? I don't care if it was by yourself, with other people, whatever it was, and what was your biggest lesson learned?
Chris, you want to take it? So my best memory was Chris and I. Chris and I had teamed up. God, it was the middle of the night. we were doing dumb shit, and I had
Just before the
waited
wheelie.
for him. It was coming into Blythe. It was on that day, and we still, yep, we were exhausted. We'd both done a bunch of dumb shit, and we both knew that we were top 1 and 2. But it was dark, it was late, and we were like, you know what?
Team road.
Regardless, like competition out the window. Let's just two brothers looking out for each other. Yeah, so we hung together for the last probably 60 miles of that day and just rode it in together. At that point, I didn't give a shit who reached first or who had any points. Like, we had been in the trenches for 2,000 plus miles battling it out, and it was two guys just going, you know what, let's just get home safe today. So that was definitely a huge highlight for me.
And then lesson learned?
Lesson learned. Don't know what you don't know and plan for everything.
You can do better than that.
What do you mean lesson learned?
Like, what did you do that you're like, yeah, I'm not doing that again, or I'm changing this for next
I didn't,
year?
brother. I'll do it all again. Watch. What? This stuff. Listen, I'm going to
This
leave
goes back to my Dr. Jekyll and Mr.
at the
Hyde.
front. I'm going to leave half my tire at the starting line on day 1. I can promise you that. I'm going to ride as many wheelies as I can frickin' ride. And I'm going to twist that bike until it frickin' pops. I'm going to do it all again. There's no doubt. So, let's see. What would I not do again? Lesson learned. Yeah, I don't know.
It doesn't have to be a negative thing. It could be like, oh,
I don't know if I learned a lesson. I'm a freaking idiot, dude. Knuckle dragging, throttle twisting is what it is.
I feel really bad for your parents.
Yeah, no, they're super proud, right? They're like, hey, he's still alive. Great.
He survived. Chris, what about you?
I got one I could change a little bit. I think there was like 3, maybe 4 times I let off the throttle, and I can't be having that. Not at all.
And then what about favorite memories? Like, what's one that just makes you smile at the end of the day?
The same one, meeting up after going through a long off-road section where I was uncomfortable by myself in the mountains, and then finally made it out. Hunter was there, and now we had double the light, because I've had a lot of close calls on the ride with wildlife, so more light was very welcome.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that was a good
Well,
one.
that's great, guys. Anything else you want to share? Any words of wisdom you want to give to the guys that are showing up to win this thing next year? Because it's a bigger field. There's going to be more boys in the hunt. They're going to have to bring it.
I think Chris already said it, right? When you're thinking about letting off, don't. It'll cost you.
I always put a buffering zone before letting off. I have to think about it. No just naturally letting off. I have to decide if it's good and then do it.
Yeah, and that's what. So on that note, I mean, this is in the Cannonball spirit. We got to do all the, touchy feely shit at this point, and you go ride your own race. Like Carrie said, everybody should know their limits and ride where they're at. It's an incredibly good ride. It's an incredibly good time. You're gonna meet. This is the top of the top of the top level of guys that ride this kind of bike and know how to ride them extremely well. So there's fast guys and then there's faster guys, and that's what these groups consist of. So nobody wants to see anybody get hurt. Nobody wants to see anybody lose a bike or anything like that. But it is a very spirited ride, and if you've signed up for anything, it's got Cannonball in the name, you should embrace that spirit. Let's melt some tires.
Yeah, especially if you're going for first, because there's steak knives, and then there's everybody else is a loser. But to your point, Hunter, I want to talk about real quick Frank. So Frank was
he's awesome.
I love Frank. Frank was number 1, and he's, I want to say early 70s, 70 years old, right there. No. And he was brand new to riding. So he had only had his license for a few years. That dude was a machine. So it didn't matter whether people were showing up to win or whether people were showing up to just enjoy the ride. Everybody, regardless of whether we were going for first to finish, enjoying the ride, or just trying to make it without dying, everybody was rooting for Frank. The minute I got into the hotel, I could see everybody on their phones watching the tracker. And my first question to everybody would be, where's Frank?
Right? Everybody knew. So we were all watching.
Everybody knew where his experience level was, what he was trying to accomplish. And we just wanted to make sure that Frank got to the hotel at the end of the day safe.
Which, in my opinion, that is just as much the Cannonball spirit as what Chris and I were doing, right? And that's absolutely. So Frank was like, you know what? I'm going to challenge myself to the extent of my ability. And by the time anyone gets to the West Coast, that's what they should feel like. Whether it's, Chris and I doing what we're doing, or Frank just finishing a 3,000 plus mile ride. Like, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And what was awesome to see was after the event, he was so excited and energized by the
Yeah.
ride. What did he do? He goes out and he buys a T7 and then he starts taking
Starts training,
off-roading
right?
classes. So yeah, he starts training for all the off-road sections so that he can get better at it.
I
It's
think that
amazing.
I think
I
that
love to
lends
see
to what
that.
you're saying though, and that's what we're talking about here. Know your limits, and if you're not where you want to be, start training now. Get on the bike, take a course, challenge yourself now. In a situation where you're not dealing with navigation. How many riders? 80 plus riders now, or something crazy like that. Inclement weather. Just go out and figure out your machine. Understand your machine. Understand its limits. If you're riding a 1200, they're not made to be on single track. Like it's just not supposed to be out there unless you're a guy like Chris.
It's all about
Like
trade-offs. Yeah, it's
yeah.
all trade-offs.
So know your machine, know your limits, and the point is, everybody wants to say like, oh, let's go have fun. No, bullshit. No, let's not go have fun. This is a challenging event, right? And it is to challenge everything that you know about yourself against some of the best riders in the country or in the world. So that's what it comes down to. That's the way I see it.
Yeah. Chris, any final thoughts?
I guess just along the line of new riders, like my father and wife are both signed up. They're both newer riders. My father had a Touareg, which would have been perfectly fine for his riding ability. He went out and bought a 1300 GSA.
Jesus.
So now he's taking courses, trying to learn how to handle it, and
And
we'll
what's
see
your
how
wife
that goes.
riding?
She's not sure yet. She's probably going to stick to just the pavement, either the Harley Road Glide behind
Nice.
me, the Aprilia, or the BMW if I don't use the BMW.
Well, we had guys on street bikes last year. We had guys on BMW RTs. We had Jay on his Indian. Those guys did great. And there's several sections of dirt that you can get to even on a street bike if you wanted to.
I came across Jay on a dirt path in freaking Arizona covered mud. I was like, dude, you realize what motorcycle
I
you're
love
on?
Jay. Like that guy he's a hoot, man.
Yeah, man. Chris has alluded several times now to maybe not riding the BMW. You gonna leak any information here,
Oh.
buddy?
Ooh. All right.
Nice.
I'm not decided yet. I'm building another bike, but I got to ride it and decide.
So it's interesting. Bike choice, tire choice, gear choice is very interesting because you've got 2/3 of the country that is all pavement and back roads and very specifically designed for one type of motorcycle, and then you've got the remainder of the course that is extremely different and designed for a very different motorcycle.
Yeah. Tire strategy is one of the other topics we're going to cover somewhere else. But
Yeah, for sure.
I don't want to go into it too far today. But
Okay.
all right. So, gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. This was awesome. I think it is important for our newbies that are showing up this year to know what they're going up against, what the expectations are, and to just help get them into a mental mindset of you just need to turn off your self-preservation switch because that's how you're going to win this thing. If you have a self-preservation switch, you better shut it off.
Yeah, true. There you go. That's right. That's right. Chris, it's good to see you.
You as well.
Carrie, thanks for having us.
Thanks again, guys. I appreciate the time.